This is episode 89
89.
of the whole SETI BIMCO empire, but episode 39 of SETI
32.
BIMCO part 2, The Revenge. No, you got it wrong last week. 39.
37.
I had to correct you in editing.
I know, it was good. Made for
It's
a better episode.
Pagan holiday special. Going to celebrate the holiday with the demigod known as Hercules. And I chose this,
right.
not George, even though he
I
knows
know.
all about Greek mythology. So later, we're going to talk about Hercules starring Arnold Schwarzenegger in his first movie.
No, Arnold Strong. Wait, that was Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yes.
I was shocked.
Also,
he was not billed as such.
Yes. We answer the age-old question. Did Jesus ever get revenge on the Puritans for banning Christmas in Massachusetts from 1659 to 1681? Did you know they did that?
No, why?
This show's educational because it was too commercialized. They were having too much of a good time.
Sounds like a lie. Sounds like a Tim Hamilton lie.
Drinking, having sex. They're like, no, you're not celebrating it. George, this is not a lie. You look it up. They banned it in Massachusetts. You'll see.
Chris,
1659. You're just wasting time testing me.
The penalty for keeping Christmas was a law enacted under Puritan rule. For the next 22 years, anyone found celebrating the holiday by failing to work, feasting, or any other way would be fined.
Yep, there you go.
Wow. Puritans really just suck.
It's SETI BIMCO Part 2, The Revenge. The show where we create revenge sequels that nobody wanted.
So this is SETI BIMCO Part 2, The Revenge, the show where we watch these bad movies and we make up revenge sequels. And I got a great one. It's a Greek myth George has never heard before. But before we watch...
Oh, my goodness. For those of you who don't know, back when I was a guest star and we used to mention these things, it was often mentioned that I am an author who writes books about Greek mythology. So this should be... I know if you listen to this show regularly, you're like, this guy doesn't write about Bigfoots. I do sometimes. But like, really, my bag is Greek mythology. So you'd think this episode would be right up my alley.
Nope.
That's all I'm saying.
But before each episode, we pick a wild card question because we're going to get to the end of this movie and ask what character from this movie would be most likely to... Which character is most likely to? Who's most likely to be drunk during a Sasquatch encounter?
Drunk during a Sasquatch encounter. Reminding listeners again, Tim wrote all of these after watching the original Boggy Creek, so chances are Bigfoot will be evoked.
And before you also start, I want to thank, because we record ahead, a few weeks ago I was on the New Yorker Cartoon Caption Contest podcast, episode 138. It's got my name on it. Go listen, and we talk about fun stuff with Paul and Beth and Nicole. They're such fans of the New York Cartoon Caption Contest. They have a podcast about it. So we talked about mine.
Do they just describe your drawing, or is it assumed as a listener that you have already seen the drawing that gets the caption?
Yeah, you can look online to see it.
Okay, so if I type in Tim Hamilton,
George,
I'm definitely not going to see a lot of porn, right?
Right. George, if you go to your computer and open something called a browser, you can see all cartoons.
I'm going to type in Tim Hamilton. Let's see what comes up. Let's see for the people.
You got to write Illustrator.
Illustrator. Let's see.
Otherwise, you get Tim Hamilton, the adult film star.
Yeah, that guy, he's got some abs, huh?
Yeah.
Tim Hamilton, Illustrator.
We've been through this.
First thing that comes up is a picture of you and former guest of this very program, Natalie Kim.
Okay, I was on her show, and her show was popular.
Yep. And
when Natalie came on, we got lots of hits, and then she left, and no one wanted to listen anymore.
That's why you stopped having guests.
She ruined the show.
Yep. What if I put in Tim Hamilton nude? What happens then?
I don't know. You'll get the porn star, George. Come on.
Oh, you know I don't get... Tim, you never told me you did these sort of pictures. Right. Everyone, shocking turn of events.
I needed money during the 90s. And I want to correct something. I know you have news.
I do.
2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we
4 weeks
watched The Creature from Black Lake with the famed Jack Elam. He was playing an old man. He's the actor with the lazy eye.
Yeah, famously wandering eye. He played every wild mountain man and town drunk in every movie made from like 1968 to like 1984.
So we do a lot of irresponsible internet research, and I read that he got in a fight with a a Boy Scout, and that Boy Scout poked his eye with a pencil, and that's why he has a wandering eye.
Didn't I
So
read the same thing?
you did, but I
Uh-huh.
was cleaning up my office, and I was typing this week, and I don't know why I looked up Jack Elam, but there was I don't usually click on these, but there was a YouTube video. It was like, Jack Elam, why was his eye like that? And what was his shocking confession when he died? And I'm like, oh, listen, it's only like 5 minutes. So they said in there that he damaged his eye in the Navy. But I think this was all written by AI. It was so strange because the story says, and his first marriage ended because his wife died of colon cancer. And then later they're saying he struggled with alcoholism. That's why his first marriage ended. I'm like, well, what? He just gave 2 reasons for why his first marriage ended. So I was waiting for his shocking confession. So he was in the hospital with his wife. He was sick. And I'm listening to it, and it just says he suddenly sat up in bed, and he was holding his favorite shoes, and he smelled them, and he said, I thought they smelled bad on the outside. And then he died.
God. This whole thing for an excuse to do that quote unquote joke? We're gonna lose. We had a chance by having a movie people have actually heard of for listeners to tune in, and they hear this and they're like, first off, who's Jack Elam? Second off, what's this guy going on about with these? Oh.
That's not what he said. They were watching The Wizard of Oz, and he jumped up in bed. He said, "Look, I can see a munchkin hanging in the forest in the background." It's our Christmas episode, George. We're just having a party. This is Christmas.
Wait, should we be drunk?
Yeah. See, I'm toasting you.
Oh, Tim. By the way, everyone, he just brought up a big jug with several X's written on the side of it. Looks like moonshine. In fact, his lips are actually on fire because the alcohol content is so high. So
yes, it is. Put them out with
good
crackers.
Episode of SETI BIMCO.
The salt in the crackers puts the fire out. Don't use water, folks.
Don't ever.
For a chemical fire like alcohol.
Yep. Tim knows because you said alcohol fires in your house like 3 times a day?
Right.
Yeah. That's why your skin is so dry because there's all the salt all over it from constantly putting out fires.
I have to open the alcohol bottles with matches, and it's it's a combustible combination.
It's such a weird tick you have.
So do you want to say anything before we get to the movie?
You did say
you do have news. But I don't know if
I
you
do
want
have
to
big
talk about
news this month, and folks, I know a lot of you like to ship Tim and I. I have good news and bad news. The good news is I am now engaged to be married. The bad news is it's not to Tim. We will continue our verbal love affair in future episodes of SETI BIMCO. People have noticed there's been a lot of stuff that comes through these episodes. There's little furtive moments of just like, you can't see the video, folks. If you did, there's a lot of steamy glances between Tim and I, a lot of double entendres, a lot of just kind of pregnant pauses as we lose each other's in our gaze. But yeah, so now sorry, ladies, to quote what they said on the Sullivan Show about John Lennon. Sorry, ladies, I'm not married yet. He's about to be married.
Ooh. Wasn't John Lennon actually married back then?
Because we here at SETI BIMCO, yeah, you've heard that thing, right?
Yeah.
When they showed him, it said, "Sorry, ladies, he's married." And then,
John Lennon's like, you're supposed to keep that secret.
He said, damn it. Now I'm going to have to pick up Yoko Ono at an art thing. I think our Beatles esoterica is one of the reasons we are such a popular revenge-themed podcast.
I think so.
People are like, I want to see what random bits of boomer band the Beatles they evoke knowledge about today.
Is that all you want to say about it? I didn't know if you had an amazing story. Okay.
I do, but I don't want to tell these people.
Okay. All right.
If they tell me their engagement story, I'll tell them mine. How's about that? And folks, if you have a good engagement story, let's make this a thing. If we get in for every letter that we get in describing their engagement to SETI BIMCO,
George will send you $2
at the end of gmail.com. I will not send you $2. I will reveal a salient detail about. If we get even one letter, one letter that we are allowed to read over there, I will read. I will tell you all the story of my engagement because it is a good story.
Yeah,
it's full of tears and fears and what.
And
I was
shouts,
trying to come up
shouts.
And shouts. I'm like, I know that band had a hit, and then you're gonna let it all out because these are the things I could do without. Come on, all right.
You sat in a big easy chair when you did this. or something. I think that album is called Songs from the Big Easy. I don't know.
Oh wow. Okay. I
think.
Wait. What? Tim.
I don't know.
We went shooting past, or at least with Boomer Band, the Beatles, they're the most famous band that ever existed. We could get into their minutia. I don't think we could do it with Tears. By the way, we're referencing a band called Tears for Fears, everybody.
Yes, Tears for Fears.
Because you're they weren't even a one-hit wonder. They had like 4 or 5 hits, but you probably don't know who they are anymore because they're old, like Tim and I.
Yes.
All right.
Jack Elam, when he got up in the hospital bed, he also said, "Don't invest in NFTs." I think that was what the real story was.
Yeah, that's weird. I guess like the Norse god Odin, who traded his eye for wisdom, Jack Elam injured his eye in whichever way he did, be it a naval injury or a crazed Boy Scout with a pencil, and he also received knowledge of the future that way.
He did. Let's talk about the movie then.
Yeah, now while we talk about Norse gods, we can watch Hercules in New York.
It's Olympic. It's colossal.
I am having too much fun.
It's Arnold.
Oh, wow.
See it for the first time in its original form with Arnold's real voice.
Smile.
I like him, even if he is a bit crazy.
Mr. Universe, Arnold Schwarzenegger stars in...
Isn't it enough since Hercules rode in your chariot? He has been immortalized.
I've been who?
Hercules in New York.
You said it was 1970. It showed up for me as 69.
I know. I've seen it as both. I don't know. Close enough,
I bet
right?
you it was one of those instances where it's filmed in 69, released in 70.
The only difference is not much difference in 69, 70. I think 69, Paul and John were still talking. 70, they were not talking. Okay. Put our Beatles references in here.
Yeah. Any time in the history of the show where 1970 comes up, you will mention a character hearing on the radio the Beatles might be splitting up. It's like it's your touchdown. So for folks who don't know this movie, like this is a movie I've certainly been aware of for many years because it is the first film appearance of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yep.
I was a little surprised how old it was.
Yeah. I didn't know how old he
he's
was.
as old as he is.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, you tend to think of him, I guess he was in Pumping Iron, which was the first thing, which I don't know when that is really.
Later
when that
70s, I think.
Oh, is it? Okay. Because I always think of him as like Terminator, which is like what, 84?
Yeah, 84 or 5. But he was Hercules. I mean, he was Conan first.
Oh my God, wait, what was Terminator?
Crom laughs at your four winds. Oh, I can't.
Was Conan before?
Yeah, that was like 80.
Oh my gosh. Okay, wow. So, okay, it's not as big. I mean, it's still interesting that he was in this movie like in 10 years later. Like he's really not in anything to note until then. I guess Pumping Iron.
Not till Conan.
He is not very good in this movie.
No.
Which is funny because I know people make fun of the Schwarzenegger for being a not great actor. I think he's actually a pretty good actor. There's things about him that will sometimes, especially earlier, he has this funny yells, yeah, and stuff. But like the guy's undeniably charismatic, can really hold the screen. He's really very wooden here. And did you hear the quote he said about this?
I did not.
I think he was being interviewed. I want to say Charlie Rose. He was being interviewed by some person. They said, if you had a time machine, what would be the one thing you would do different? And he said he would go back in time and not film this movie.
Oh, I thought he was going to say you would murder the people.
Well, they said that you can't. That's actually not in the option. This is, I'd like to go back in time and fuck a triceratops. It's like, whoa, that's weird. No, like he hates this movie.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It was fun. It's meant to be a comedy.
Yeah, and it's we have a rule. We sometimes talk about movies. Are they too good for SETI BIMCO? And sometimes we have movies that we feel are too good for SETI BIMCO. Like recent movie Ernest Saves Christmas, we decided probably was a little bit too good for SETI BIMCO.
Maybe.
Happy to report Hercules in New York is not too good for SETI BIMCO.
And the little guy. I sent you a film I'm sure you didn't watch.
Yep.
Arnold Stang.
I actually did watch about 30 seconds of it before I turned it off, but yeah.
He's like a little, for people who don't know him, he's a little guy who's often played sidekicks in a lot of movies. I don't mean to be mean to him, but he's like a little guy with no chin and big glasses. He's the classic nerdy little guy.
But a very New York style nerdy little guy.
Oh yeah, he was almost
he's got
playing
a very
Woody
thick,
Allen.
like old school New York accent. He wouldn't be in Woody Allen movies, would he?
No, I've said he almost played a Woody Allen like character.
Yeah, he plays like kind of like super like neurotic sort of New Yorky guys. He really has no chin at all. It's kind of amazing.
And I
He
found a
looks
fact.
like a caricature.
I found a fact. I don't know if you saw because you're not
Probably
mentioning it. When the radio was invented, they did Archie's radio show, and Stang.
Archie's the comic?
Yeah.
Oh.
Stang played Jughead, did his voice
Oh, that tracks.
on the Archie Andrews radio show.
Did he, as Jughead, do a rap song?
Probably.
Because Arnold Stang and Jughead, they invented rap, right?
Yes.
He did. He would hip hop, hippity hop.
He was also the voice of the Honey Nut Bee in the 80s. Or Honey Nut
That's
Cheerios.
it. Wait, really?
Yeah.
Okay, it's a pretty storied career for this guy.
I can't do his voice. His voice is too unique. Can you?
Yeah, I
He's
feel
just
like it would. I feel like it would be very easy to lapse into offense too.
I know.
Do you know what I'm saying?
His voice cracks. That's all. His voice cracks, and it's
his
yeah.
voice cracks, and it's kind of high pitched, and it's got a real thick New York accent, and
Yeah.
it's that's me trying. It's not there. Just if you just watch it, it's just yeah, he is kind of like. I would rather listen to his voice though than Woody Allen's. Like they are of a similar sort though.
Or Popeye, as we know Popeye grates on you for some reason.
It does.
And yet you like the movie.
I love the movie. The movie's great. Anyway, that was a reference to a previous episode, folks. I mentioned that offhand line as a child that I found Popeye to be grating.
Yeah, that's
and I preferred watching Tom and Jerry where they didn't speak at all. And Tim really lapsed onto this. This has bled over into our real world correspondence. He mentions it in our group threads and stuff. He keeps throwing the anytime anything even tangentially related to Popeye comes up, he's like, George hates Popeye. It's very strange.
I didn't like Pink Panther.
Because he didn't talk.
I thought they were weird cartoons.
They are weird.
This is cartoons with Tim and George.
We should do a side podcast called that. Seti Bimco Animated. You could finally do the animation that you were supposed to do for this one when I wrote my list.
It's a bad omen. You'll leave the show as soon as I draw a caricature of you.
All right. So the movie is Hercules in New York, 1969, starring Arnold Stang, who we talked about extensively, and Arnold Strong, which is what Arnold Schwarzenegger is billed as in this because somebody's like, Schwarzenegger, you'll never be a big star with a hard to pronounce name like that. Yeah. That guy is probably a hobo somewhere right now. First line of this movie I thought was pretty clever, and I wrote it down.
I didn't.
Go ahead. Voiceover narration says, myth and history merged into mystery.
Okay.
I'm like, how have I never heard that before? That's actually not bad.
Really? I'm laughing at that. I'm sorry.
Well, it's better than expected from this movie.
Myth and history merged into mystery?
Yeah.
Did you say mystery?
Myth and history. Yes. Myth, ith, and history.
I missed it.
Merge into mystery.
I have to apologize, George. That's pretty good.
Right?
What did
you think I said? What did you think I said?
I thought you said hysterectomy. Like, oh no, mystery. Sorry. Mystery.
God damn these jokes.
It's not a joke. I misheard you.
So the movie opens up on Mount Olympus, which I'm pretty sure is just a part of Central Park, right?
90% of this movie is filmed in Central Park.
Yeah. This is not that Central Park, if you're not in New York, Central Park is a beautiful place. And it's some place everyone should visit. It should never be mistaken for Mount Olympus, the home of the gods, though. Because it looks just, I mean,
it's a staircase.
I'm pretty sure Mount Olympus doesn't have red bricks on it.
Yeah.
Right? Like just guessing. I would assume marble.
Yes,
maybe.
marble.
I don't know. It's ancient Greece.
You know, George. Don't pretend.
Well, I draw with marble, but that's just me.
Okay.
Who could truly know the mysteries of Olympus, Tim? I'm just pretty sure it doesn't look like this corner of Central Park they're pretending it is.
I said Greece looks kind of drab. That's what I wrote.
Yeah. It's kind of like it's unimpressive. And we meet Hercules, who
yes.
Tim and I did want to actually watch the version where they had the dubbed voice, but because you watched the undubbed version, I decided I should probably watch the same thing so as to avoid an Equinox situation. Go back and listen to our episode Equinox to understand what I'm referencing to.
You listened to Arnold.
I listened to Arnold as well. But this movie was famously, upon its release, they dubbed his voice because, as Tim said, he was Australian. Because Tim doesn't know the difference between Austria and Australia.
Rich Little did the voice.
Well, no, we do get to hear the guy's voice in this movie. Yeah.
Spoilers.
Spoilers at the end, folks. And Arnold, and he's acting very wooden.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's maybe he speaks clearly and he sounds like Arnold, but he just doesn't have the inflections Arnold does later. So I don't think it's like a language barrier. It's what?
He said, Crom laughs at your four winds. Doesn't he say that to Zeus?
Yeah, and there's that bit where he says to Zeus, I'm tired of the same old faces. And Zeus is like, what are you going to do about it? He's going to say, I'm going to crush you. Have you drove you before me and hear the lamentations of your women?
Yes.
And Zeus is like, get out of here.
Then he runs.
Yep.
Well, anyways, he wants to go to New York. Zeus is like, no.
He doesn't specifically say New York.
Oh, does he want to just
go to Earth? He wants to go to Earth because he's tired of the same old faces.
And he just complains about it until Zeus gives in. That's pretty much all that happens, right?
Well, let's set up this. Well, first off, let's address the big elephant in the room.
Uh-oh, what was that?
If you were a Greco-Roman fan like me, this is called Hercules in New York. So Hercules, the Greeks called the dude Heracles. So we should assume that this is going to be a Roman version of the gods.
Okay.
Hercules. And for the most part, it is. We in the opening bit of dialogue, they mention Mars.
Right.
Characters in the movie, we meet our Venus, who is better known as Aphrodite among the Greeks.
Mm-hmm.
Mars is Ares, by the way. Mercury is a character in this who's Hermes to the Greeks. Juno, who is Hera.
Well, at least
but inexplicably, they kept all that stuff. But then Zeus, he's the one that sticks out. Zeus is Greek. He should be either Jehovah or Jupiter.
Well, no one knows that. They just know Zeus.
Nobody knows Jupiter, the planet?
No.
Yeah, nobody knows that. They're like, what's that big red one? Oh, wait, the red one. What's with the big red dot on it?
But they know Zeus is the man with the lightning bolts.
Yeah, they also know Jupiter, though.
The metal rods spray painted silver.
Oh, my God. Yeah, by the way, Zeus's lightning bolt is like a corrugated iron rod, roughly bent into a jagged lightning bolt shape and spray painted silver. And that gives you an idea of like the levels of, this is the level of effects we're having in this movie.
Mm-hmm. There are no effects. Really.
So Hercules is just being like very rude. I'm so tired of these faces. I'm bored here on the Olympus. I want to go. Why can't I go down? And everyone's like, because, there's all these reasons. And finally, Zeus gets so mad, he throws the lightning bolt at him, seemingly blowing him up.
Yeah, that was a good effect.
I wrote, oh, that was quick. Like, movie's over. He kills his son. But then we cut to an airplane.
Yeah. Silly joke.
And there's these ladies who are one of them looks out the window and Arnold Schwarzenegger flies by.
Yes.
I guess he's falling.
He's falling.
He floats by because it turns out Zeus blew him up Mount Olympus and he plummeted to Earth.
Right.
And this woman sees him and she's like, oh, there's a naked man outside the airplane. And her friend's like, I should never have taken her to see all those Greek sculptures.
No. Does she say
nudity's got? Yeah, she really says it. She makes this line about all that nudity's got her all keyed up.
They're both smoking.
Everyone smoked back then. So yeah, if you couldn't actually, most people know that in 1969, you were not allowed on an airplane unless you smoked 3 packs a day.
Really? Only kids could get out without
Even
smoking.
kids, babies, they would light babies. Right. Oh, that's mean.
He ends up in the ocean and everybody's like, oh no, he'll drown. So Zeus says, well, I'll send a ship of young boys over to pick him up. I don't know why I said it like that. Young guys.
Because you're a bad person. But it's a sailing ship of what is it called? Is that important? It's not important.
Oh, no, because then they do a bit of comedy, like where you're from. He's like, the Olympus. Olympus.
He goes, I'm from Olympus. They're like, the Olympus is a ship that sails out of Athens.
Yeah, it's isn't the Olympus the Titanic sister ship? What was that ship? Not the Olympus.
I think that was actually Olympia, but yeah.
Olympia.
No, wait, was it? I don't know.
Well, George,
I'm sure. Here's the thing:
the Olympia's really sank, but not the Titanic. They just
because everyone knows that was a fake.
Mm-hmm.
They got what's his name? The guy who filmed The Shining.
Mark Twain. No,
Mark Twain. Yeah, Mark Twain who filmed The Shining.
Yeah, he Stanley Kubrick. He filmed the fake Titanic sinking. He was a kid back then. Okay.
Yep, he was a little kid, and then James Cameron, he sank the real Titanic for real later. That's how he did that movie. because it's been actually going back and forth the whole time. I hope somewhere there's a really dumb kid who listens to our show for for lessons and writes us into a school report.
Yeah, he's like, "Who's your father?" And well, no, I forget. They asked him a bunch of questions.
They're like, "What's your name?" He's like, "Hercules."
Right.
They're like, "Well, that's a name." They're like, "What's your last name?" He goes, "My name is just Hercules. I am the son of Zeus." So everybody calls him Hercules Zeus because they decide that's his last name.
Right.
And Hercules is. I have a note. Hercules is dumb. Because he wants to be among the mortals, but like this guy, like I mean, he's vaguely super strong. I'm gonna say,
well,
for God, and they do mention specifically he's a demigod, so he can die. He's not like the other gods.
Yeah.
But he's not that strong. Like he's pretty strong.
Yes.
But he's not like.
Well, as we'll get to it, he can defeat.
Like Spider-Man could beat the pants off him.
He could, yes, with the webbing.
Yes. Yep. He'd throw a rope on him, go, but he will not work on the boat. They're like, you got to work. He's like, no, I will use my strength to beat you up. And so there's many silly scenes of guys trying to get him to mop, and he's hitting him with mops.
He's knocking their heads together.
He's taking big pieces of wood and shoving them.
Big pieces of wood and shoving them? What?
Yeah, remember, like he has they're all pushing on a big piece of wood, and he's holding the other piece of wood. He's
that's
going,
right.
And he shoves them with the wood. Then he takes it, and this part, I don't know if this is your cut. He takes that piece of wood.
Yeah.
He shoves it right up a guy's asshole. It's graphic. Do they have that? Yeah. He goes, "What's wrong? Got to stick up your butt?" And then he throws him into the ocean, and the guy drowns. It's a scene of shocking violence.
Another guy tries to distract Hercules. He says, "What's that on your foot? A tumor?" He goes, "It's not a tumor." And he crushes his head.
And then he leaves for a while and he goes, "I'll be back." And then he comes back and goes, "I'm back now." And he kills everybody. Fucked up.
They do dock. And I do like this film because it's New York in 1970. There's lots of shots of streets. I'm like, I wonder what street that is. And, I couldn't tell where they docked. West side of Manhattan, I think.
Yeah. I mean, an area that's almost certainly condos now. It is always fun when you get these movies that are filmed on location to like see like this old stuff. Like it's yeah. Was this filmed with no permits? Like the way
I read part of it was, yes.
Because this movie is entirely filmed in New York, and
because they're driving cars on the lawn in Central Park.
On the lawn.
That would not fly today.
No. Also, Central Park looked kind of dumpy compared to today. Like it's like, this is during the period. I can just picture like Gerald Ford's like, Ford to City, drop dead. It's right about then. Like they're not taking care of the park.
There was no grass. There were people digging holes.
Yeah, people driving cars and they're filming awful movies.
Hercules jumps off the ship and runs away. And I think, are we gonna hear what I think we'll hear? Because they offer the guys $20 to anybody who can stop Hercules.
I didn't catch that one.
Which doesn't seem like much. So I was wondering how much that's worth today. $20 to get your head knocked in by trying to capture Hercules.
I will tell you, Tim, I did do a lot of George's current currency Kerner. I missed the $20.
Oh, well. Did you do how much the film cost to make?
No, I did that. I did the cab fare.
Oh, we'll get to that. Wait, you want to do this? You want to look this one up?
So this movie was filmed in 1969.
Does this need the official song?
Yes.
Okay. There you go.
Roll the music for George's current currency Kerner. George's current currency Kerner. So after Hercules beats the crap out of everybody, the captain is heard to yell $20 for anyone who could get him back. Mm-hmm. Tim, do you want to know what $20 in 1969 has the purchasing power of today?
Got to be 100.
Over 100, $167.67.
I would risk my life for that.
You would go after an enraged and vaguely superhumanly strong Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime for $167?
I'd use Greek trickery.
What's that? You tickle him?
I'd say, I bet you Hercules can't fit on my hand. And
he's like, "You're right," and he rips your arm off.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. He can turn into small things, right? That's Hercules' power. He can turn into a mouse.
Hercules famously is a shape-shifting mouse guy. He's a weremouse. Everybody knows that.
His dad could change shapes. I know that.
Yeah, he can, because his dad's a real god, not like demigod.
Well, they jump in a taxi with Pretzi, played by Arnold Stang.
There's a big fight scene on ground, and we are introduced to the character. Why is Pretzi called Pretzi?
That's his name. I looked it up.
No, he sells pretzels. You didn't catch that?
Well, he said he got them from the bakery called Food of the Gods. I don't know if you caught that. So I couldn't tell what pretz he did for a living. Maybe he worked at that bakery. He offers Arnold a pretzel, and he says,
"Yeah,
I got him from Food of the Gods in Brooklyn because Hercules is like, He doesn't eat any of it, by the way.
No,
for
Hercules doesn't eat anything in this whole movie.
He nibbles on a little piece of it. He's like,
that could not have carbs.
What do I write here?
Well, they're in the taxi and they both know Apollo. They kind of do some funny stuff like,
there's a bit like the guy mentions Apollo and Hercules is like, I know Apollo. He's very conceited. He goes, Apollo's conceited? This
handsome.
Is me doing Pretzi. He's very handsome. He's like, Apollo with his what on the end of his nose? Yeah, it's just.
Pretzi's like, go on, tell me you're kidding. Go on, tell me. He's ugly.
It goes on for very long. I think this was an instance, Tim, where they're like, "Hey, improv," and Arnold Stang, the guy who plays Pretzi, was stuck with the unenviable job of
trying to
improving with this level of Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's not the funny guy later who could do like twins and stuff. This is a dumb hunk of wood, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, Apollo was very ugly. I mean, very handsome.
So it's funny that they drive and the guy's like, well, where are you going? And he's just suddenly like, oh, we're in Central Park. We'll get out here.
Yeah.
They're just in the middle of Central Park.
And
because they were on the highway.
Tim.
Yes.
It's time for another episode of George's Current Currency Kerner. George's Current Currency Kerner. Because the fare is $2. So I'm like, oh, what is that back then? Do you want to know what $2 in 1969 is the purchasing power for today?
40. Those are $40.
$16.77.
That's still a cheap cab ride.
That's still a very cheap cab ride. But I feel like nowadays in New York City, that would get you about 4 blocks.
I know. And Pretzi's like, come on, we need some bucks. You got to have dough.
Now, Pretzi, the pretzel salesman, inexplicably has no money. And he's expecting the maniac who stepped off a boat from Greece, as far as he knows. So even if he was actually not Hercules, just a normal Greek guy, why would you assume he had anything other than like drachma or something?
But this was
you don't really have money? And the cab driver, like, this is young Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's in his 20s probably. Dude is like 6'2", I think.
I know, and he's going to fight him.
He must weigh like 250 pounds if anything. He's enormous. He's bigger than you've probably ever seen Arnold Schwarzenegger before. Yep. And this like middle-aged cab driver is like, I'm going to fight you. And Hercules throws him pretty far. And then using what seems to be the upper limits of his strength, turns the cab over onto its side.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. He's strong, but he's not like.
And they really fail. They could have done the whole thing where he punches him and he just looks at his hand and, punch Arnold. They do this weird stuff where Arnold like rolls him over and it was odd.
I read that the director was somebody who was used to filming stage. So I think like a lot of like kind of like the funny movie tricks you would do. Like another thing I'm surprised they didn't do is like you have like a distance away. Like you have like Hercules punch the guy and then like you cut and the guy lands like 40 feet away. But like he just threw him like about as far as Arnold Schwarzenegger could actually throw this guy. And he does turn over the car, but like,
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, it's like he doesn't lift the car. I couldn't pick up the car. I'll be honest.
No.
Tim, you and I working together probably couldn't. And to be brutally honest, even in his prime, Arnold Schwarzenegger couldn't either because it's a car.
It's a car, yeah.
But it's not one of those things you're like, that guy is super strength. Like, okay, that guy's pretty big.
But I do like it's somewhat funny that Pretzi's like, come on, we need some dough to get around the city. Where's your bucks? And Arnold's like, oh, why do you keep talking about the male and the female deal with the bucks and the dough?
Yeah.
Why are you so obsessed with Dior?
So
I think people are really enjoying the fact that we keep doing Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonations, Tim. So then So watching this movie, and I get it that Arnold Stang was like a relatively well-known actor. Yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger, of course, is one of the most famous actors of all time. I was truly floored by this next character who appeared.
It's the
guy from Poltergeist,
the
boss.
I was going to tell you.
Yes.
Professor Camden.
Camden.
And his daughter, Helen Camden. I pronounce
but
it
like, folks,
Candom.
you know this guy, this actor. Like, he's like, if you lived in like the tri-state area, you knew him from the Pathmark commercials growing up.
Yeah.
But in Poltergeist, he is
The real estate guy,
Nelson
right?
Riley's boss, the one. You do the tombstones, not the graves.
Yes.
He's like, I'm sorry. And he's also in Return of the Living Dead. He's the
did not
guy
know
who
that.
works in the mortuary thing that, like, they released the zombie, the famous tar man. Like, this guy is an
Oh.
actual actor.
He is.
If we were to look this up on on Wikipedia, there would be a blue link to his name.
There would be.
I didn't write his name. I just wrote guy from Poltergeist.
His daughter, Helen, she was only in 3 movies I could find. I hope she's okay.
Oh, really? She had the stink of someone who never acted again. What else was she in?
I wrote them down, and I can't find them right now. So, George, we'll get back to that. One's called Bloodbath, I think. So he runs into he finds some athletes. Here's some parts that I was like, wow, you really had no budget, because Hercules sees people working out, and they tell him that, Pritzi tells them they're athletes, and they're doing Greek stuff. They're throwing a discus, and
It's a bunch of college students doing athletics in the park, and Hercules is like, what's that? And he's like, they're athletes. They do college stuff. They throw things.
the spear,
Now,
not called a spear, javelin.
Pretzi, who
javelin.
just saw this guy flip a car over, he's like, what, you think you could do better? But yeah, the guy just flipped over a car.
Yeah, I know.
We know where this is going, Pretzi.
Yes, we know. So he takes the discus, and I thought, what'd you think? I thought he was going to throw it, and they were going to cut to it crashing into a window in Manhattan. That's what I thought.
That would have made sense.
But no, he
Something
just
like that.
throws it across the field, and everybody's like, "Oh my god!" They just look.
This
You
is
don't
what we're-
see it. They just look.
Well, you see it hit, like, you see it land, but like the way it's framed, you really don't get any indication this is far.
No.
And I my note is even like, Herc throws a wobbly ass discus and it goes pretty far, I guess.
They should have used
Because you
stop
can't
motion.
tell. Yeah, like there's so like the cut, you're right. Like, or show it like landing in the water off of Manhattan.
Yeah, I thought they
show
would
it
do
like
that.
there's so much you could have done, but they don't. It just, and like it's also like Arnold does throw the discus like really poorly.
Yes.
So it's like it looks wobbly and shitty. It's like, guys.
And then he does the jump. We see him leave the ground, and then we cut to
he
the
does a
faces.
javelin too.
But when he jumps, he leaves the ground, and we just cut to the faces, and they're like, "Oh my god!" And then he lands.
Again, if framed the way we're not really sure, like I guess that's pretty far. When he does his jump, a random passerby, Tim, you know time to start the music. Another installment of George's current currency Kerner. George's current currency Kerner. He's like, this guy's pretty good, huh? Price's like, yeah, I bet you $50 he can make a better jump than this guy. Guy's like, you're on. And already at this point, having looked up other things, like $50 seems like it's quite a bit of money.
Yeah, back then.
This guy's be carrying this around.
Yeah.
So you want to guess what the purchasing power of $50 in 1969 is nowadays, Tim?
It's at least 200.
It's way more, $419.17.
He had buried that.
And
in
this
Central
guy,
Park.
without he bets that out after seeing this guy throw a wobbly discus and a wobbly javelin. He just pulls it out, gives it to Pretzi, and leaves.
Well, he lives in Central Park. That's what went on back then. He had no rent.
He was just a homeless guy who had $400 in his pocket. He's like, yeah, I could burn that away.
And Professor Cadman is also, for no reason I can figure out, he's like, hey, I'm interested in this guy. And his daughter's like, yeah, I like her.
I can think of a reason why Professor Camden is interested.
What? We never know.
Same reason his daughter's interested. They're both like, that guy is a hot hunk of beef.
It could be. No judgment from
I say,
me.
yeah. It sounds like it. Then, Tim, why are you crossing your arms and shaking your head no?
And they, for some reason, they invite Pretzi and Hercules over for tea. And Pretzi's like, tea? What? Tea? I don't do drugs. And I'm like, what is this?
Are you in those narcotics offices?
Yeah, I know.
So, Tim,
He's like,
I was going to do a
"Nobody
list here, and I'm
invites me
like,
for
I can't
tea."
make this funny. What do you think? What does T? What drug does T stand for?
I don't know. I can't. I was flummoxed. Why would you think I would know that?
I'm not even asking as a joke. I'm just thinking it was like just
Tea.
like I was like testosterone. Like I don't know what the fuck. That's not a drug.
No. But
Toenails?
he's really like super surprised. He's like, I never get invited to tea. You really going to invite me for tea? It was like
Yeah.
So I have to tell you, George. I have your 3 basic reasons why no one invites Pretzi over for tea.
Well, it's good. I literally wanted to do a list here and I couldn't think what to do. So all right. Let's hear it, Tim.
I wish you'd done one too. This is
make one
why
up real quick.
nobody asked Fritzy over for tea. The first reason, he won't leave, and he'll drink at least 6 cups of tea while bragging about his strong bladder.
I like it.
The second reason, when you ask him if he needs to use the bathroom after his 8th cup of tea, he says, no, thank you. I have a very strong bladder.
Oh, no. I don't like where this is going.
Number 3, by the time 11 p.m. comes around, he'll ask if he can spend the night on your couch because it's too late to go home. Back then in New York, he just didn't walk around that late. And the next morning, when he's leaving, he'll see a big turd on the couch. And when you confront Pretzi, he will say, I said I had a strong bladder, not a strong sphincter. Those are the reasons.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
He says, my sphincter is as weak as a 30-year-old Iowa rubber band holding together an Alabama toothbrush.
You have to stop those jokes. The regional jokes suck. I hate that episode that introduced that into our world.
Okay. There's my only list.
All right. So they have tea. He has tea with Professor Camden, his daughter, Helen, Pretzi's incredibly strong bladder, but deceptively weak sphincter, and Hercules.
And who's this man that comes by? We don't really know who he is.
His name is Rod.
Rod.
Hercules assumes he is.
Is he your lover?
I don't know what he says.
Yeah, he goes, is he your lover? You're a good-looking man. She is a good-looking woman. It is just natural. And he's like, that, sir, you can't say that. I challenge you to a fight.
And finally,
Hercules,
doesn't he punch him and go, ow? Is that,
he does. He punches him. I don't think he even goes, ow, but Hercules picks this guy up and we learn dislocates several of his ribs hugging him. And Helen stops it. But then later that guy's like, I like Hercules.
I know.
Why?
Everybody likes him.
Your
anyway.
entire interaction with him is he put you in the hospital.
He squeezed him so hard. He was like, no, my sphincter. It's not strong enough.
This is no more poop jokes.
Okay. They're too easy. I know.
So I don't know. There's a whole thing's like.
Well, they go for a ride. I think the next
Hercules
scene.
just leers at Helen. She's like, "Why are you looking at me so strangely?" And he's like, "Cause you are so attractive."
Yes.
As they're leaving, Pretzi does say, "Like, look, you can't behave that way around people. You were like a bull in a 10-cent shop."
I know. I saw that too. I wrote that down.
Tim,
How much is a 10-cent
roll
shop?
the music. George's current currency Kerner. How much do you think 10 cents? How much purchasing power does that have today?
That's now a dollar store, probably.
No, it's not even at 84 cents.
Ooh, 84 cents.
We are losing 18 cents on the dollar, Tim.
Wow.
Basically, they raised that thing up too quick. I feel outraged by this.
Every time you have a new currency corner, I'm going to have a new poop joke.
Oh, no. We're doomed this episode.
So
So it's the next day, right?
I don't know what happened. I have notes that they went on a carriage ride. Did something happen before
but
that?
before we even get the carriage ride, I got very excited because we see what seems to be the Central Park Zoo.
Yes.
And we see, apparently back then, this is, if you've all been to Central Park Zoo, it's actually a pretty nice place now.
Yeah.
Lots of space for the animals, and most of the animals are pretty small because it's not an enormous space. Back then, they apparently had gorillas. There was a gorilla there.
Man in gorilla suit.
Lions.
Man in
and
lion
the guy in a bear suit. No, those are real gorillas and lions.
Man
that
in bear
part was
suit.
real.
Okay.
The bear suit was embarrassing.
I call
Yeah,
him Man in Bear Suit. That's his character.
Man, like we have seen some, like we watch a lot of Bigfoot films here. We've seen some really shitty Bigfoot costumes. This is like on Shrieks of the Mutilated level of bad. Like it's a guy in a bear suit, like so obviously. And Hercules and Helen are riding through a horse-drawn chariot through Central Park. And the bear apparently picks a lock and escapes.
Yes. Oh, well, Man in Bear Suit is a big part of Greek mythology, right, George?
It is, yeah. Well, a lot of people that Hercules famously Heracles has his 12 labors. A lot of people don't know the 13th labor, which is it's the man in the bear suit of Astoria, Queens.
Yes.
And Hercules in that one, he has to go to Astoria, Queens, and he's looking for a gyro and some falafel, and he encounters a man in a bear suit, and he pulls his intestines out through his ass and makes him into a vase. Yeah,
into a vase. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. It's Greek.
The Man in Bear Suit encounters this carriage ride. And Hercules beats the shit out of him.
Just punches him.
Pummels
And
him.
the guy in the bear suit, I guess, forgets he's supposed to be a bear because they're just like boxing. It's bad. And there's like a guy with a gun with a tranq rifle and like a cop. They're like, "Oh, you beat up that bear."
I know, they just stare
And
at
somehow this gives an idea they're going to make Hercules a wrestler.
it. Yes.
And I was
Mr.
wondering,
Dugan,
do you
his
think?
name.
Yeah, do you think part of the movie was cut out?
Yeah, we'll get to that. I was confused by this because these gangsters are like, "You're going to do wrestling, lots of money in that." And Pretzi's like, "Yeah, lots of
They
money."
introduced him the idea he's going to wrestle. They literally have this guy, Mr. Dugan says it. They literally have one shot of Arnold Schwarzenegger raising his hands in victory.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's nothing else that we see of it. And then we see these gangsters coming to Pretzi's house. And there was a weird commercial in the version I watched. They actually interrupted there. So I'm like, wait, did I miss something? I went back and rewound it and had to watch the bear fight again. I'm like, no, I didn't.
Because that could have been a great part with a masked wrestler wrestling Hercules.
Yeah, it's like Spider-Man.
Yeah. They didn't
Like,
have
he's like
budget for choreography.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly by the bear fight. But like, you could get a wrestler of the day. Like, you maybe can't get Randy Macho Man Savage, whoever you can. He's like, Bonesaw is ready. And then Hercules is like, I'm going to smash you. But we don't get
They
any
cut
of that.
something out.
Instead, we get...
I think he
we get
beat the
some, like,
wrestler and he said, "Get to the chopper." And then they went to a commercial.
What are some other Arnold Schwarzenegger quotes you could put in?
We'll get to him.
All right. Oh, you got them all written down. Okay. Oh, it's your story, isn't it?
Give the people air.
So he's becoming a wrestler.
They do go to Rockefeller Center. They do go into New York. They go to see the statue of Atlas.
Oh, yeah. He's like, that is a bad likeness. Doesn't look a thing like Atlas.
They just came out of the church, so they must have cut something out where they went to church. And she's like, "This is our God. You look like..." I don't know.
He looks like a little sissy man nailed to a piece of wood.
Yes. And then he poops on the communion wafers.
There you go. Now you did.
A little controversial.
You know,
Do they show
seems
them really
weak.
coming out of St. Patrick's Cathedral?
Yeah, that's what they were.
Oh, man, I bet you there was a scene they tried to film. And like, it's like, look, guys,
And
you can film. We're in New York City. You can film cars doing donuts in the park all you want.
yes,
But you can't have this big Austrian muscle man pooping on the Holy Eucharist.
we are forgetting the rest of the plot a little bit. I've got notes here now about it.
Ooh, okay.
Remember, because Zeus is mad. Well, why is he mad? He sent Hercules down there. He wants him to come back.
Yeah, because he's upsetting things because he's being a wrestler.
And he's going to send Nemesis. Who's Nemesis, George?
Well, Nemesis is actually a figure in Greek mythology, but in this one they make her like, I don't know. She was an actress that had a blue check mark next to her name. I don't know what that was about. And she is going to what Zeus has decreed he wants Nemesis to do is to take Hercules and banish him for a year in the realm of Pluto, better known as Hades.
Yeah, Hades.
And Nemesis is like, I hear and obey, Lord Zeus, even though we are the only two gods with Greek names and everyone else has Roman names. And then Juno approaches her and is like, what if instead? Because they fall in the old trope of like, can I just get on my little Greek soapbox here? I fucking hate it when everybody makes Hera / Juno the bad guy.
Because she's
it's
a
always
bad
like,
girl.
oh, yeah, well, she's the bad lady because she's jealous of the fact that Zeus has 8 million kids outside of their marriage.
Yep.
I think she's entitled to be angry.
Yeah.
If you and Miss Lee are out somewhere, like you're eating at one of your local cafes, and some lady comes up with the kids like, Tim, this is the kid who I had after our night of forbidden passion 3 months ago. I think Miss Lee would be mad, right?
Yeah. Especially
Then another woman comes up, says the same thing, but like 4 months ago.
Especially if
Then a guy comes up and he's like, here's the baby I got from 6 months ago.
Especially if I
then
turned
like
into an
swan.
animal.
Yeah. Like the kid's like a half goat. You're like, yeah, I was a goat that day. I just wanted to try something new.
He's also annoying because he's always drinking wine and bragging about his strong bladder. He does that too.
Yeah. But this Zeus, we should mention, he just keeps pissing himself on the throne.
He does.
The actor was on his way down.
He was like,
So
I'm
Juno-
confused. Not my bladder. I have a strong sphincter.
I don't even eat food. I don't have an asshole.
Cloaca. He has a cloaca.
So Juno is like, what if instead of just bringing him down to the underworld for a year, which seems pretty good, honestly, what if you give him this special poison that strips away his divinity and then he could die?
Yes.
Even though we've already been told straight up front in the beginning of the movie that Hercules can die.
Yeah.
Because he's not. So I don't know. The script writers weren't being very careful here. So
No.
we know Nemesis can do this, but thankfully, because like this plot like really just goes nowhere. Mercury is like, he's like, wait. What if I go down instead and try to convince him to come back?
Yes. And
he apparently arrives on a helicopter.
Goes into Pretzi's.
I think something was cut out here. I think there's a joke where we see a helicopter land on the edge of Manhattan. What? And we see two people get out, and then Mercury does, and the guy who's taking the attendance looks at him really funny. I think there was originally something in there where like there was only two people on there. He's like, where'd this third guy come from?
Oh, okay.
But they didn't do a very good job in this movie.
I fell asleep right there.
And Mercury is dressed. I should mention he's not dressed up like a Greek guy. He's wearing a suit,
no helmet,
and he no helmet, no shoes, no nothing. He just looks like a normal guy wearing a suit. And he shows up, and Pretzi. We did forget to mention this. He has only just started to figure out that maybe Hercules is the real Hercules. Because apparently he didn't know anything about Greek mythology. He found a book about Greek mythology. He's like, wait, this guy's called Hercules.
He stole a book from Professor Cabman.
Oh, you're right. He did steal it from Professor Camden. He's like, this will serve me well when I have my leaky rectum. Why am I doing these jokes? Tim.
You could do it again. Yeah, he kept reading a book about the Greek myths. I'm like, suddenly, this is why he believes in Hercules?
Well, yeah, because like he's like, oh, this guy's name is Hercules too. I'm like, Pretzi's like what, 50? We'll say. Yeah. You need to tell me, Pretzi, you have lived to be 50 years on this planet and never heard the name Hercules before.
Maybe not. He never.
Maybe you don't know who Nemesis is. Maybe you don't even know who Juno is, but you don't know who Hercules is. Pretzi, come on.
He's got a nice apartment.
So he's starting to think this,
but
then. We do see his apartment.
Yeah, I said it's very nice, and I still don't know what he does for a living for sure.
Actually, that's not his apartment. They say he makes the line to Hercules later. He's like, they're staying at a hotel.
Oh, that's right.
He's like, we need money to pay off this hotel with all these charges you've been running up.
I'm tired of living in Central Park. That's what. I bet you live there. That's why the cabbie went there. He's like, oh, look, we're in Central Park.
Oh, I bet you're right. I bet you he lived in the zoo.
I totally don't live here.
And he worked there as a bear. He wore a bear suit. He was the guy who fought Hercules.
I didn't see Man in Bear Suit and Pretzi together. It's true.
I never did either. That's interesting.
It's not.
Anyway, so Mercury shows up and Pretzi's in the next room. And they're talking very openly.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to go back to zoo. See, he blew me up with lightning bolts.
And Mercury's like, well, I guess you're not going to learn. He goes to the window, opens the window, jumps, and we hear a whoosh sound effect, and Pretzi sees, and he's like, blah, 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 blah. Because, wouldn't you know it, Mercury flies back to Olympus.
Oddly enough, Mercury says, come with me if you want to live. And Arnold's like, oh, I like that.
He says, come with me if you want to live.
Wait, that's not Mercury's voice.
I'm saying Mercury says it, and Arnold's like, that's good. I'll use that.
He goes, I'm going to keep that.
So then we cut to Pretzi, goes out to the professor's thing. He's like, he can't talk because he's like, the guy, he fell out the window and he fell up into the sky.
You've been doing too much tea, Pretzi.
And you're not allowed back here after you did to our couch, you beast.
Well, you know what? You know what?
What?
I think Hercules does go to a competition before he loses his powers because he wins. He's in the newspaper, or he's wrestling or something. He's in the newspaper.
Yeah, he's because he's a famous wrestler. He's front page news. We never see this.
No, you do, because I zoomed in, I paused, I looked at the newspaper she was reading, and the story on the back had a weird headline. It said, "She doesn't like the go. She doesn't like the go-go, but she goes along." No, that's a real headline they put on there.
Weird. I don't know what that means.
There are some early headlines about Zapruder film released. Smoke from grassy knoll.
Beatles split up. Other things we mentioned ad nauseum.
Beatles could split up soon.
We hear Paul and John aren't talking. Pluto shows up at this point.
True.
In a scene that seems pretty extraneous given everything else that's happening. He is just a skinny guy with English accent. We see him and Nemesis negotiating at the gates of Hades, which is just another gate in Central Park with a fog machine behind it. And he's like,
I wish you'd warned me you were coming. It's a real hell to clean this place.
Anyway, he shows up in Manhattan, and in probably the best special effect in the entire show, we see like a scale model of Lower Manhattan, and the lights go out.
I thought that too. I was like, oh, they painted that or something.
I'm like, wow, they actually tried something. Yeah. because he doesn't like the light, so he makes all the power go out. There's a very weird scene where I think he and Arnold are supposed to be having a flexing contest or something.
Yeah.
I don't understand what happens, and he leaves, but he also meets with the gangsters, and he bets $20,000 that Herc is going to win this upcoming strength contest.
Isn't it lose? Wait. Because the gangsters are betting he'll win. He's betting he'll lose?
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Probably.
Because
do you want to know?
What? Oh, I want to know? Play it.
George's currency Kerner. George's currency Kerner. We're finally talking some money. Hades, Pluto, those of you who know your mythology know he's also the god of wealth. This guy's going to slap down 20,000 American dollars in 1969. Do you want to know what that costs nowadays, Tim?
Maybe $500,000?
Nah. $167,000, $167,688.12.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's almost $1 million.
That is a lot. So the competition we learn after this, a guy named Monstro the Magnificent is going to have a weightlifting competition with Hercules because he has declared Hercules is a fake. This guy is a wrestler. Monstro and he's going to put up 10,000 of his own dollars.
And here's where I thought it would be wrestling. I was so confused.
Yeah, it's not wrestling at all.
It's super boring.
It's just lifting weights. Tim, do you want to know how much money? $10,000?
Okay. It's 30,000.
It's $83,834.06.
I can't keep these straight. I can't win at this
No,
game.
I know. It's really hard to guess. Like, I don't know how these things work.
Richard Thomas. He was the announcer for the weightlifting. I don't know if you
Is that
recognize
a famous
him.
person?
He played George Costanza's boss when George worked for the Yankees on Seinfeld. He was the guy.
He was the George Steinbrenner guy from behind?
No. He was just his boss. Remember, there was another man that had gray hair. They never showed you Steinbrenner, just his voice.
Yeah, he was just from behind. George.
But there was a man that would have meetings with him. So anyway.
And that was him?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
No, it's not.
I think it is. I think it's interesting anybody in this movie ever acted again. I'm being serious. Let's see.
There were some funny bits.
So instead of wrestling, because he is a wrestler, and whatever Monstro the Magnificent is, who, by the way, is another very large person, actually a little bit bigger than Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Taller.
At least in height and stuff. Very big guy. They are doing a clean and jerk lifts.
Yep.
The first one they do is 500 pounds.
Do I need to censor that you said that? Do I need to bleep it out?
Because I said clean and jerk. The second one is 750 pounds. And the final one is 1,000 pounds. But at some point prior to this, we should have mentioned this. I guess Nemesis has already made him lose his godly powers.
Yes.
So Hercules is able to clear 500, as is Monstro. He's able to clear 750, as is Monstro. Monstro clears 1,000 pounds. Hercules does not.
Nope.
Kind of surprised Arnold agreed that, even though the other guy was bigger than him.
Yeah. Well.
But I found out some facts, Tim.
Uh-oh. Is this a list?
For starters, even to this... No, not a list. This is just facts. George's facts. George's facts. The clean and jerk, the world record to this day is not even 750 pounds.
Mm-hmm. What is it?
So it's like 551 or something. So although don't quote me on that, if it was less than 750, I was surprised to learn. So the two of them, Monstro and Hercules themselves, apparently break a world record just on the second one. Monstro then creams it by doing 1,000 pounds. And I thought, is this another instance for George's currency Kerner? George's currency Kerner. The British version?
The British version. What?
So as you know, Tim, British currency is not the dollar. It is the sterling silver pound. So, do you want to know what 1,000 pounds from 1969 is worth now?
4,000 pounds.
13,885 pounds and 19 cents.
Wouldn't it be 19
So he actually
pence?
left
19 pence?
Well, actually, we're mixing up pounds here.
Right.
So he lifted multiple tons.
He did.
Yeah, so he's super strong. Yeah.
So
anyway, Hercules loses.
they just start running
Monster
from gangsters.
wins. The mobs are like, well, let's kill him because we're losing, as we learned, the equivalent to $167,688 because of this. And then the rest of the movie is a silly chase sequence.
And I read they didn't have a permit because they actually chase through Times Square. And they didn't have a permit for that.
I don't really.
They were in Times Square. You see Easy Riders
I kind of want to watch
playing.
it again.
Easy Riders
Really?
playing? Yes. You didn't see
Nice.
that? Wait. So they run out in the street and there's a man dressed kind of like Tarzan. Oh no! Did you get a movie with something cut out? And he's got
that is weird. And I actually Hercules does grab a chariot
because this man
like a Roman style chariot, and you said he's dressed like
Tarzan.
Like Tarzan.
Yeah.
He's basically wearing leopard skin print. I was wondering if he's supposed to be dressed like Dionysus because he was riding a chariot.
Well, see, there you go.
Dionysus, the Greek god, or Bacchus, as he was known as the Roman incarnation,
Bacchus.
he wears a leopard skin. So I'm like, maybe, but they never do anything. I thought maybe it was gonna be him.
But he was just
giving this movie
in
too much
Times
credit.
Square for no reason we could discern.
Why is Tarzan riding a Roman chariot?
Because there's going to be the Thanksgiving Day parade, I think.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, what month did this occur during?
Thanksgiving month. Officially known in the Greek calendar as Thanksgiving month.
It's weird they had that, yeah.
But this is my favorite joke. That the man with the chariot was buying a hot dog. Hercules jumps on it, takes off. The man with the hot dog, who has his hot dog, chases after him. And the man selling the hot dogs, trying to put his sauerkraut on the hot dog, chases after the man with the hot dog. So,
I didn't realize that's what he was doing until the moment after this insane chase sequence.
yes, they chase him all the way.
Mobsters chasing. Well, so the Camdens, Helen and the professor, the guy from Poltergeist, are pretending to have Hercules in a car. So the mobsters are chasing after them.
Okay.
They're all riding through Central Park, riding on the lawn
right away.
like crazy. A bike in fast motion crashes into something. I don't know what was happening there.
Bikers ruled Central Park, 1970.
They end up in like I kind of felt like it was like the printing offices of a newspaper.
Well, you're jumping ahead the joke. The chariot breaks. The chase
the chariot breaks,
stops, and the man with the selling hot dogs puts the sauerkraut on the hot dog of the man chasing the chariot. Anyway, I like that.
Which was pretty fun. Yeah, it was a long sequence of him chasing just to get this sequence on.
So
the Camdens end up in like, I think it's a printing press.
Yeah, it's big barrels
big
of
tubes.
something.
Yeah, big barrels of something. Hercules joins up with them. We cut back to the unimpressive Olympus. The gods are watching. And they're like, we should send some help. Mercury gets Atlas and Samson.
Those are totally different
Samson
belief
isn't Greek.
systems.
No, Samson is from the fucking Old Testament. Also, his strength is contingent upon having long hair.
Oh, that's
no,
right.
this guy playing Samson did not have long hair.
I didn't even pick up on that.
It's these two, and also, and Atlas is a fucking titan. So whatever. So these two other rando muscle guys, I guess, like they were the ones who couldn't get the part of Monstro. So like they're probably friends of Arnold's from Pumping Iron. They're just suddenly down there too, beating up gangsters.
Yes, they
Arnold is hiding with the Camdens because he's only immortal now.
Right.
He very daintily uses his little foot to push over a tube on top of a guy. It's pretty funny looking.
Yes.
Zeus is watching. Now he's noticing from Olympus. They're all looking down. And he's like, why are Atlas and Samson there? Who called them down? And Mercury is so fucking obvious. He like looks away like going, yeah. Mercury, did you do that? I mean, I'm a Greek geek here. Mercury / Hermes is literally the god of lying. This guy was terrible at lying.
He was always
Zeus
lying
is
about
like-
how strong his bladder was, right, George?
Yeah, I mean, we forgot to mention because like that Pretzi, of course, worships Mercury. He's like,
That's right.
I have a very strong bladder. It's just my terribly weak rectum, as Tim pointed out. It is shocking in this movie how many scenes of just like Pretzi getting off a couch and just leaving a big turd there are.
You said no more
Right?
turd jokes.
Well, you're the one who keep bringing them up, buddy.
So that's pretty much They defeat the gangsters and they go to the top of the Empire State Building. Zeus
Pretzi watches this and he gets a change of heart and he's like he throws his corrugated iron lightning bolt down, which I guess gives it gives Hercules back his powers.
Yep. And
they go to the top of the Empire State Building, which is cool.
I do want to know. I mean, I'm just saying, if Hercules is a straight god, why'd he go to the Empire State Building with Pretzi? Why didn't he bring Helen, who they seem to have a thing going on? So I was confused.
I don't think Hercules is a straight god. I think he swings both ways.
Okay, I just wondered.
I think he was about to make his affections known to Pretzi. He's like, Pretzi.
And he saw what the cheapskate was.
It's time we tied the knot. Get it? Because you are a pretzel.
Yes. He saw what a cheapskate it was because he was going to look through one of those binoculars. He's like, 10 cents. Forget it.
Well, Tim, we do know that 10 cents is the equivalent of 84 cents. So maybe you'd be
84 cents.
That's too much money.
You're doing his
That was
voice.
probably my best Pretzi I did right then.
Mm-hmm. It's not too much. Is my best Arnold.
No. So Hercules disappears from the top of from the top of the Empire State Building. Mm-hmm. And Pretzi's all sad. He's like, why did Herc leave me? Where did he go? And he goes back to his ramshackle apartment, wherever it is, because he's no longer staying in the posh hotel.
Turns on the radio.
And he's sitting there going like, he's just all sad. He's like, I guess I'll just, I don't know, just sit here and look sad. And then the radio starts talking.
Well, he turns it on. Because he's like, I know what'll cheer me up, the Beatles. And he turns on the radio. Like, sad to report, Beatles have broken up. They will make no more new music.
They say, well, don't worry. It won't be the end of the Beatles' music. They'll release a song called Now and Then in the far-off year of 2023. It'll be their best song ever, and everyone will love it. He does turn the radio, I think, because he's so sad, and we hear, this is great. So the version we heard was, it was...
the dubbed voice.
With Arnold's actual voice. But the version that was actually released, like if you went to see this in a movie theater, God help you, you heard a dubbed voice. Mm-hmm. Apparently, Arnold never recorded these lines because this was never officially released. So we get to hear the original actor's voice who dubbed this.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Pretzi. It's me, Hercules. I'm back on Olympus and everything's good now.
Is that what you heard?
I'll always love you. Tell Helen and the professor I don't understand why they're in the movie. They seemed half-baked at best.
In my version, it was Stephen Hawking that did the voice. He was like, Pretzi, I miss you. If you ever love me, just
him. That's
just think of me. I will be in your heart. That's what was on my version. I don't know.
That's weird. It's weird. Mocking Steve Hawking.
I'm not. That's what his voice sounded like.
So Hercules goes back to the Olympus, which is, of course, that little section of Central Park. He's like,
Father, I have learned much. I now am happy to be back here.
And his dad's like, yeah, Zeus. He's like, yeah, maybe you all should get the fuck out of my face. You and Juno and all the rest. And then he's like, rubs his beard.
Yep.
And then he throws a lightning bolt down. And then we cut back to those same wacky ladies on the plane. The same one, the overstimulated lady who saw naked statues in Greece and was hallucinating a naked Arnold Schwarzenegger. And she looks out the window and she sees Zeus is transformed into a Hasidic Jew just falling from the heaven.
That's what I thought too.
Why is he Hasidic?
Well, who knows? Who knows?
So so Zeus is flying down to New York to live in a section of Brooklyn, I guess.
Yes, get a bagel.
Yep.
From Food of Gods.
The end.
The end, George. Ooh, let's go to revenge. Wherever you are, wherever you're hiding, I'll find you.
Revenge.
One of us will die. One of us will die.
I will not let Cindy take my place. I will have my revenge.
Get drunk with a Sasquatch. Did you write it down, George?
Yes. The wild card question today for the two of us, Tim, is most likely to be drunk during a Sasquatch encounter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That opens it up a bit.
No, it's Pretzi. Pretzi's the only person that drank in this movie. Right?
Yeah, so where do we think this Sasquatch encounter... do we think Pretzi... Okay, so as established, Pretzi apparently lives in the middle of Central Park.
He would encounter man in Bigfoot costume in Central Park is what I think would happen.
Do you think it's the man? The guy's like,
I'm actually not a man. I wandered down out of the from during the last ice age and live in upstate New York. I crossed over the Tappan Zee Bridge and now I live in Central Park.
True. That could have happened.
Yes, reference to previous episodes, Streaks of the Mutilated.
And he would dig up the
I assume
alcohol.
he would recruit him to be a wrestler, but he wouldn't know what a Bigfoot was.
He wouldn't.
Because he didn't know what Hercules was either.
Well, he
just assumed he's a big, naked, hairy guy.
He would steal a book about cryptids from someone's house. That's how it happened with Pretzi.
Who would be do we think it would be real life cryptozoologist Lauren Coleman would see them?
He visited his house.
Be like, I'm intrigued by this guy. I think he might be an actual Sasquatch. Come to my posh digs.
Pretzi'd bring him.
While he's there, he steals a book. He's like, Bigfoot? My new friend has big feet too. Oi!
He says, really? Come over for tea. And Pretzi's like, what? No one invites me for tea.
No, I think he's like, come over for some fucking heroin. He's like, why, thanks, I'd love some tea. But it turns out, no, they just fucking shoot up heroin and Pretzi dies of an overdose.
The end. Okay.
The end.
Wow.
It's a good one.
That made no sense. I don't know what happened in that story.
Pretzi got drunk and did heroin and died.
He was supposed to, okay. With man in Bigfoot suit.
Well, it's actually a Bigfoot. Wink, 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 wink. A Sasquatch. All right.
You want to go first, or you want me to get through?
No.
Okay. I kept this under 500 words. I'm trying to do better. I'm trying to make it smaller. Let me stick.
Good job.
Okay. My sequel. That man in the bear suit. Man in bear suit. That's my character. He works all day in the Central Park Zoo pretending to be a bear. Entertaining snot-nosed kids and pretending to like to play with that big ball. So that night he escaped the zoo was not so much an escape. He just sneaks out every night to head over to Times Square so he can catch that new movie Easy Rider. He's watched it like 6 times.
Ooh, it's all tying together, Tim.
Yep. So that night he met Herc. Guy in bear suit was just headed to the movies again. But as you know, he ran into that Greek god and Herc beat him mercilessly. So they take man in bear suit to the vet, get him his shots, release his glands, do all that stuff to him. Once they get him back to the zoo. Yes, no, they didn't do that.
That's wrong.
Once back at the zoo, they double his guard just to make sure he won't escape again. Thus, man in bear suit is furious at Hercules and wants revenge. And as we saw at the end of the movie, Zeus came down to visit New York City. And Zeus went to the zoo to see man in bear suit, who had this mighty encounter with Hercules, his son.
I have a question.
Yeah?
Did Zeus go to the zoo because he thought it said Zeus? Because their names sound somewhat similar? Zeus?
Sure, yeah. And then he said, oh, here's man in bear suit who fought my son. I'll go have a
That was the unknown 13th labor of Hercules.
conversation with him. And he says, why so sad? And man in bear suit explains, he loves Easy Rider and he can't see it because he was caught sneaking out and beat by Hercules. And Zeus responds, I'm his father. I know how impertinent he can be. Let me tell you. This gives man in bear suit an idea. Rather than curse Zeus and Hercules, he praises Zeus and then questions him about his power. He says, you can shoot lightning bolts, right? And Zeus says, of course. And he does one and he blows up the sheep meadow because back then nobody cared what happened in Central Park. And Bear Man says, cool. But I heard other things people say that you maybe can do, like turn into an animal. And Zeus says, of course I can turn into animals. What do you mean, maybe? And man in bear suit says, well, I don't believe you. That's silly. That can't be true. Silly. I'll turn into a swan right here to prove it. And he turns into a swan. And Bear Man says, whoa, you really can. You're one cool dude. You want to come in this cage and smoke this big doobie with me? Because that's what he did all night, because he couldn't get out anymore. So they hang out.
How did he get the weed?
He buys it from man in Bigfoot suit. He comes by the zoo.
Okay. Oh, okay. Good tying it all together.
So they hang out, smoking this joint that Bear and Man suit had laced with angel dust. And sneakily, man in bear suit does not inhale. So Zeus, in the form of a swan, smokes all this, pot and passes out. He passes out.
Yeah. Zeus passes out.
Zeus swan gets super high and passes out. Eventually.
All right, okay.
So a guard overhears all this partying going on and comes over and he grabs the swan out of the cage. He says, what's this swan doing in here? And man in bear suit says, yeah, he must have escaped from the Frogwa factory up in the Bronx. And the guard says, looks like a swan to me.
This is under 500 words, huh?
It is. Man in bear suit says, oh no, it's a goose. He escaped from the Frogwa factory.
Oh, we're getting the ugly duckling territory.
You can believe me. So thus, the next morning,
I'm a man in a bear suit.
the next morning, Zeus woke up while being force-fed until his liver enlarged to an unnatural size at the Frog Wow factory. Did Zeus escape? I don't know. That's for a movie for another day. But
did Zeus escape while drunk and then, because he's already upstate, have an encounter with a Sasquatch?
Maybe.
Did we make a mistake in choosing who was the drunk?
Well, that's the next movie.
Okay,
you're
nice.
You're confusing me so much. I can't yes and that. What happened?
Because he's at the foie gras.
Yeah.
He's being force-fed alcohol, as happens to geese at those things.
Oh, yeah.
He's upstate New York, which we already know is the stomping ground of the Yetis, as established in Shrieks of the Mutilated.
Gotcha.
He escapes. He is drunk from being force-fed. And while he's on the run, a drunken Zeus in the form of a goose has an encounter with a big foos.
Okay.
I said foos instead of foot because it rhymed.
All right.
I just made your story better.
You've derailed me.
All right. Yeah, you always say that.
That was the fable
You
called
have to
The
be on
Tale
the
of How
tracks to
Man in
be-
Bear Suit Tricked Zeus. You know that tale, right?
That's what Aesop's is one of his famous stories. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Under 500 words.
Woo. Okay. All right, folks. Start the music, Tim.
Okay.
Look, we all know I'm a Greek myth guy. This should be something that's right up my alleyway, but I didn't do the work. But luckily, I happen to know that there is a revenge story that exists for this one already.
Mm-hmm.
So, Professor Camden, we mentioned him. He and his daughter Helen. We couldn't quite figure out why they were in the movie, what his angle was. Why was he so interested in Arnold Schwarzenegger? Professor Camden, we never even found out what he was a professor of. Eugenics.
Oh, not Greek mythology?
Yeah. No, not Greek mythology, because there was really nothing Greek about Hercules. He had an Austrian accent. He had these very big muscles. He saw him competing mightily against the finest athletes Central Park had to offer in the middle of the city. And he saw this guy speaking with this Germanic accent. He's like, I think this might be one of Hitler's Übermensch.
Oh, what?
I want to take him back to my apartment to learn more about him. It's the final ingredient he needed for his big plan. He was going to create an army of unstoppable Übermensch. And his whole thing was he was going to invite him over for tea. Right?
Yes. Tea?
He's going to put the teacups out. And he was going to get genetic material off the teacups.
Gotcha.
Problem was, he scraped the wrong teacup. He ended up getting genetic material from Pretzi instead. So he created... His initial batch was just, you don't want to know what those guys look like. They look like a bunch of Pretzis. It sucked. It was awful. He destroys them all. He's anxious to he's going out of his way. He's like, Helen, you need to get DNA some way from Hercules. She's like, I'm your daughter. That's disgusting. He's like, look, just invite him over for tea again or something. But then that whole business with the gangsters happens. Yes. And they're running through, they're tipping barrels on people. Atlas and Samson are there for some reason. Nobody understands why. They don't even have lines. They're just punching gangsters. And then Hercules just disappears.
Right.
Unfortunately, Camden had already spent a lot of money on the first failed genetic experiment with Pretzi.
So
he'd promised a lot to superiors at the college that he's taught at, which let's just say was middle of Central Park University. Even though he was tenured, they fired him. His daughter didn't want anything more to do with him. She kicked him to the curb. And he spent some time. He worked as a mortuary assistant.
Well, didn't he hang out with all his
in a small
his
town?
Pretzis? I have a question. What happened to all those
No,
Pretzis?
he destroyed all the Pretzis.
That's
You don't want... Look, Tim, one Pretzi's
That's the
enough.
sequel I
If you
wanted.
have a batch of Pretzis...
That's the sequel I
you gotta-
wanted.
Okay, how about this, Tim? He seals them up in drums and has them shipped away by the U.S. government.
All right.
So they'll be found, just like in Return to Living Dead.
Okay.
Meanwhile, he gets a job, just like Return to Living Dead, he gets a job as a mortuary assistant where there are some things in the basement. He accidentally creates a zombie apocalypse. We won't get into that part. He's inspired by his experiences with the zombie apocalypse. He's like, maybe I'll get into real estate instead. He buys us some cheap land. Turns out there's graves on it.
Jeez.
He just, wouldn't you know it? He just switches the headstones. Turns out that causes a whole haunting.
It's where they buried all the
Pretzis.
Pretzis.
That job.
It's where they buried all the Pretzis, right, George?
It's where all the Pretzis were buried. You're right. It's not actually a cemetery. He's like, oh, I did move the grave. It's just that this is where I buried all those thousands of Pretzi clothes.
It's a Pretzitary.
Yep.
Pretzitary.
This isn't even. I just realized, Tim. This isn't even revenge. This is just the sad saga of Professor Camden. And then eventually, he got fired from that job too. After all the Pretzis came to life, became a poltergeist, and sucked a girl into a TV. Then he just worked at Pathmark.
Okay.
Yep, which was a food shopping place.
He must
in
have
the
done.
tri-state area.
He did something bad. So that was fate's revenge on him. Well, he made all those Pretzis and killed them.
He made and killed those Pretzis, and his revenge, actually, he could never seek revenge on Hercules because Hercules went back to Mount Olympus, but he found the original Pretzi, and he shot him in his sleep.
What?
He just shot him while he was sleeping.
And did he say, consider this a divorce?
He says, and then he jumped out a window, but instead of falling up like Mercury, he plummeted down to the streets below where he blew up like a ketchup packet all over the streets of Manhattan. The end.
All the while yelling, get to the chopper.
Wait, why is he doing Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonations?
I thought you meant Arnold came down and shot him.
No, Arnold's gone. He's up at fucking Olympus. He's like having sex with goats.
People, I have to
why
apologize.
goats?
I just ruined the end of the show. I thought we were talking about Arnold.
Tim, I ruined the story long before you had a chance to ruin it. Folks,
this is the end.
Sometimes the journey's not about the destination, but it's about the journey itself. And I say a movie like Hercules in New York needs to be experienced
at Christmas.
But I don't think it is Christmas. That's also that true. I feel like this is not a movie that you need revenge for because it's such a fun, delightful movie.
It was kind of fun.
And sometimes, Pretzi needed to be shot. But aside from that, I'm okay with this being kind of a happy ending. Although thousands of Pretzis died in my version. So much Pretzi death.
So is that okay? Is that the end?
That's the end. That's the end.
So we've got a big backup in the email. The emails couldn't get through.
We have emails?
No, there's a big backup in the emails. There's a big problem with the internet. There's a lot of emails trying to get through, but they're getting
too many emails at once, huh?
Yep, it's like too many Pretzis.
Folks, when you send an email to SETIBIMCO with an E at the end at gmail.com, include brand because we're having a bit of a blockage.
Yeah, don't make it so big.
Don't make it so big.
So love us.
So these big words.
Love us and like us on all the places you can hear podcasts because you can hear us in all these places known as Apple, Podchaser, Good Pods, and on the internet anywhere. And we're on Instagram.
Pod Squad. Did
you say Pod Squad?
Yeah, I'm making stuff up.
Okay. And
Pseudopod.
SETI_BIMCO on Instagram. We're everywhere. And next week is the what you call the dreaded clip show, but we're going to be here and not watch a movie, and we're going to reveal clips that you never heard on the other shows, and we may have a guest with us.
It's a very special episode of SETI-BIMCO. It's not a rehash of things. I want to make this clear. We're not playing clips from episodes of SETI-BIMCO we've heard before. Tim and I talk a lot, and some of the stuff that gets cut out or sometimes stolen by the Smithsonian is the best parts.
Yes, that's what's going to happen.
You're going to hear brand new clips. Maybe stuff that got cut out from Boggy Creek.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe stuff that got cut out from Boggy Creek 2, The Legend Continues. Yeah. Maybe stuff that got cut out from Boggy Creek, The Return.
You're making it sound so interesting.
It is going to be so interesting. And we will have a guest star.
I failed. Yeah,
we're going to have... Unfortunately, we will not have our erstwhile ex-co-host John Kelly, but we will have occasional co-host and George O'Connor impersonator Chimelian Kablumo.
Yes. That's how you pronounce it.
Yep.
Okay. Whew. Yeah, great. That's amazing. That is amazing. That is amazing.
Wow, that's the best episode yet of SETI-BIMCO.
I will have a list.
We fucking nailed it.
I'll have a list next week.
I'll have 7 lists because Tim cuts my lists out.
I'm gonna have 2
A lot of the
lists.
clips are going to be me talking about comic books because Tim always cuts that out.
You just wait. I'm going to
have a lot of
list.
it will just be the Tim's excessively loud belches he has to cut out.
I have a list about Zapruder film just to whet your appetite.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
All right, we'll say goodbye. Love
Bye,
us
everybody.
And like us. Bye.
This has been a Pity Party Line production.
Party line, it's a party line.
Yeah. Hey, what's happening?
Is he your lover?
Like what?
Hey, mister, watch your talk.
I can hear my dog. I cannot watch it.
You're not going to be hearing it much longer if you don't apologize to Miss Camden right now.
Apologize? For paying her a tribute?
A tribute? Insulting her.
A beautiful woman who has a handsome man for a friend. They must be lovers.
Hey, will you
It is
cool it?
disappointing they're natural if they're not.
All right, you asked for it.